All right, so this is my chapter 4 breakdown for the souls of black folk. And yeah, this chapter was, I don't know, like it brought up a lot of mixed emotions. For me, at first I read it and I read it super fast. And then I had to go back and just read it again and just soak up the information that WEB was just saying. And um, I gotta say, like, he was really thinking about shit in a different way. Like, I think, like I said, I still don't necessarily agree with everything he say, but man, this chapter was tough because he went to. I got my notes right here. Um, before he kind of was breaking down Booker T. Washington, he broke down um, the Freedmen's Bureau, but this one he kind of just was giving us insight of a small town in Tennessee that he went to teach. The chapter is called "The Meaning of Progress," and he goes into his experience as a teacher in the small town. And WB being from like the New England area, like Massachusetts, you could tell it was a culture shock for him. He talks about his days as a teacher down there and how the school setting was different from where he came from in Massachusetts. And honestly, Massachusetts had a better learning environment and for learning. And at Tennessee, in a small town at the time, had a lot less, which in hindsight kind of set people up for a certain destiny. And I mean, when you look at it, like, it's a thing where they said it was a statistic that they said, like, it was like a crazy statistic, like you're 80 to 90% likely to stay where you are, like your class system that you born in. And this chapter basically shows that in a way, but at the same time, it's a it's complicated because he shows progress, but at the same time it shows some other things. Let me just get through the breakdown, and I bring it back a little bit. He does a great job of breaking down the family dynamics of the kids that he worked with in the area as a whole. He talked about Josie and her family, and Josie being basically the backbone of her family, doing a bunch of tasks to make sure her family was straight. He describes he describes a bunch of other people throughout this town too that he grew attachments with. He talked about the Dows, who had a farm. He talks about the Burks, who had a farm too. And one of the head of the family, Doc, had a goal to buy acres, 70 acres on a hill, and a bunch of people doubted him around him. And he talked about liking being at the Dow's home. They had a bit more going on. He also brought up liking to be at Josie house and basically watch how they had her doing so much, and it seems as if like she wanted to really learn. Like like she wanted to learn, but due to her family needing her to do a bunch of things, she never really quite got the learning that she probably wanted. They had her doing so much, it seems as if I read that already. But her family needed her to be the responsible one. And, this is a story that I see throughout a lot of families. It's something that you see with people who don't have the most money and stuff like that in poor environments. You see usually, one of the kids has to take the responsibility as the mother or the father and kind of hold down the younger siblings. But, it don't always work out the best for those people. I've seen it within my own family. I've seen it play out in other families. I got people around me who have this going on. I even seen it with like other groups, like family, other races. I've seen this thing play out, and like I said, it don't always work out the best because it could build up resentment. It's a lot of other things. I still want to go through my through my notes. So he said he spent 2 summers there, and the way he broke down the community, it made me think about the hood. It made me think about some of these places that don't have the best advantages, and how we look at progress, how and how we, what I'm saying, like, what does that actually mean, being here? And it might not always end in you having that fairy tale ending. He talked about the small community and how they were in their own ecosystem, and their problems are the only thing that matters in this small, in this place. He talks about how the kids not seeing everything yet, and he basically talks about trajectory, and how, what I'm saying, some of these kids 10 years from now, they might have a different outlook on life. He talked about how for the youth, stuff like war, stuff like, Civil War being the time that they were in, slavery and all that being like fairy tales to them. But in a way, you could say that they still were affected by these things, but they not even thinking about that yet. You know what I'm saying? Or they may not ever think about it. And that's something that he didn't really get into, but he just kind of giving us a sense, a setting of that. And he do a good job, because I ain't gonna lie, this it was a small chapter. It wasn't even that many pages compared to the other chapters, but it hit so fucking hard. So he eventually leaves and come back, and basically some stuff changes, but for the most part, in my opinion, a lot of it was sad. Josie, to start off, she dies, and she basically worked herself to death. She basically works herself to death. She was always working to help her family, which is, it's not a bad thing, but you know what I'm saying? She didn't really get to live her life how she wanted to. Because she had that responsibility of taking care of her family. The Lawrences, which I don't think he talked about at first, they left, and they son, he just was there digging holes. He talked about Fat Ruben, who a part of the Burks, is a preacher, and his daughter plows corn. He talked about the Dows, which is Uncle Bird. They were the ones who had like a little more, their stuff was a little more together. His daughter got a husband, and she took pride in having like her house kind of tidy and, clean and stuff like that. And they wanted to buy like a farm and stuff too. His school got taken down. They moved it to a different place. They had classes every year, but it still wasn't the best place, you know what I'm saying? But it was better than what they had. So he was kind of happy about that. Then he ended up thinking about the Burks and how basically, you remember the 70 acres. So he went back to their spot, and he said a lot of it didn't change. But instead of 70 acres, they got 100 acres. But he said they still were in debt. Then to close out the chapter, he actually asked, how do we measure progress? And then he also asked, like, how hard, no, he says it's hard, no, he say, like, how hard life is for the lowly, yet how human and real it is. And yeah, like I said, man, this chapter was very sad, because it just reminds me of the hood, you know what I'm saying, and how, everybody don't make it out. It's not always a good ending. Everybody don't get their mansion. Everybody don't, you know what I'm saying? Everybody don't get certain things throughout their life. And so it was just it's, like, it could definitely open your eyes about the things around us, but it's also sad that some of these issues that, WEB talked about way back then, we still dealing with this same shit. It may be wrapped up in a different package, but it's damn near the same shit. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like you said, like man, like progress and what does that mean? Each person, that shit, it all means different shit for different people. Some of them took small steps. Some of them, I feel like some of them took some steps back in the chapter. Some people took half of steps, but like, from the outside looking in, it look a certain way, but to them, this is progress, and it's just, yeah, it's one of them ones, man. I ain't gonna lie, and it was tough, really like comprehending that and sitting with that. Hell yeah, I'm over here about to tear up, bro. Like, yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm done with that breakdown. I'm gonna still read the book. Um, but yeah, I've been taking my time, been just getting into other stuff, and yeah, uh, that's my review on this one.